As our story begins, we see a hand foraging in the mud and finding what appears to be gemstones. Upon closer inspection, we realize that these gemstones are in fact uncut diamonds. The scene then shifts to the busy city of London, where we find an elderly lady named Laura Quinn sitting in a cafe with a young newspaper reporter, Cassie. Laura produces an impressive diamond of 168 carats, with 58 facets, and Cassie is amazed. Laura then begins to tell the story of how she stole the diamond from the London Diamond Company. We are taken back to 1960 in London, where we find Laura as a young businesswoman entering the building of the London Diamond Corporation, where she works as a manager in a male-dominated company. She greets an elderly cleaner, Mr. Hobbs, and we also see a man named Mr. Eaton being followed by two men with small trolleys. Eaton opened a large vault where they loaded trolleys with diamonds and took them to the desks for examination. Outside, the owner of the company, MKA, and his son Ollie, arrived at the building surrounded by protesters. Upon entering the office, the directors and staff were waiting to discuss the news of 100 diamond workers being killed at the mine site in Africa. Laura informed MKA that the Russians would most likely sever ties with the company due to the bad press. MKA then announced Peter Boland as the new managing director, despite Laura's qualifications, as the company would not break tradition by appointing a woman to the position. Later, we see Mr. Hobbs the cleaner enter Laura's office. He tells her that he believes people should be bold and take what they desire, prompting Laura to sign out of the building, the last to leave as usual. The following day, while in the hallway, Laura meets a man named Harold Reynolds, who she had met at Oxford University. He gives her a business card and suggests she might like to work for Allied Banking, the company he works for. The next morning, Laura finds her inspirational note with a negative response written below, as well as a cinema ticket with a session time written on the back. Intrigued, Laura takes her lunch break to go to the cinema, eager to find out what the ticket holds in store for her. As Laura entered the cinema, she was surprised to see Mr. Hobbs there. He suggested that they sit together, but Laura was losing patience with him. Mr. Hobbs then revealed that he had overheard a conversation between the directors of her company, saying that her job would soon be terminated. He proposed a plan to her, stealing enough diamonds to make them wealthy, but not enough to be noticed. Laura wasn't sure if she should trust him, and warned him that he would never get away with it. Later that day, she found a letter confirming her employment termination. Feeling desperate, she made an appointment to meet with Harry Reynolds. When she sat down with him, he informed her that his company could not offer her a job due to her incompetence. It seemed that her company had spread some bad rumors about her. That night, she fell asleep on the sofa and had a dream about the security men at work, catching her in the act of stealing diamonds from the company. The next evening, Laura went to the dog races to find Hobbs. When she asked him how he could rob the company, he explained his plan in his apartment. He needed her to find the vault codes, which were located somewhere in MKA's study at his house. Hobbs told her that when she was attending a function at MKA's house to entertain the Russians, she would have to find the codes. He said he could carry enough diamonds in his drink thermos to make them both comfortable in retirement. On the night of the function, Laura talked with Mr. Jameson, MKA's second-in-command. He told her about Sir Sinclair, the company's insurance director, who was once implicated in a health insurance scandal, but wasn't prosecuted. MKA then introduced Dmitriev, the head of the Russian Diamond Authority, to them. At the ball, Dmitriev asked Laura for a dance, which she accepted. Later, Laura went upstairs and entered MKA's study to look for the codes. She heard footsteps and quickly hid as MKA entered and opened a small safe. She watched him and made a mental note of the safe code before he left. Once he was gone, she opened the safe and found the codes for the vault. The next day, Laura noticed a man installing a security camera in the hallway. She then met with Hobbs and informed him of the 8 CCTV cameras that were being installed, which alternated on and off for 60 seconds at a time. Hobbs assured her that this was enough time for him to get in and out of the vault. Finally, Hobbs mopped the floor in the security room and timed the cameras to ensure he had enough time to complete his mission. Hobbs looks at his stopwatch in the cleaner's room and makes his move. He quickly rushes to the vault and puts in the code, while Laura calls the security room as a distraction. He watches his stopwatch again and opens the vault before hurrying down the corridor and out of sight. Later, Hobbs is seen leaving work, but he is called back inside to unblock a toilet before he can leave. When he arrives home, he empties his tea thermos into the sink, but there are no diamonds. The next day, all the diamond sorters have gone home, and Laura finds Jameson in a panic in the lobby. Laura was in the ladies' toilets when Mr. Eden called her and took her to the vault. Upon entering, she was astonished to find the vault completely empty. Mr. Eaton was showing a man named Finch the building plans and informing him that the only way into the vault was through the door. MKA then announced to the management staff that there would be no police investigation, as the publicity would ruin the company. Sinclair then introduced Finch as the chief insurance investigator. Laura noticed Hobbs in the lobby, but he reassured her that everything was all right. Later, Laura goes to MKA's office, where she sees a man called Boyle giving a letter to MKA regarding the purchase of some inventory. Boyle is unaware of his client's identity and the contents of the inventory, but before leaving he hands a small package to MKA. MKA opens the package, which contains a huge diamond known as the South African Star. Boyle is then called out for a phone call, and while he is gone, MKA reads the letter, which states that the diamonds can be bought back for £100 million. After Boyle leaves, Finch asks Laura some questions and notices that she's very nervous. The next morning, Laura suggested to Jameson that she work with Finch to help with his investigations. She found Finch and they went down to the vault together. He told her that CCTV cameras were not very secure due to a 60-second time gap. Finch also mentioned that there was no forced entry. Laura then suggested that the thief must have known the combination. Later, we saw Sinclair offer MKA a check for £5 million to buy enough diamonds to keep trading. However, MKA had wanted the diamonds back now. When Finch suggested that MKA's son Ollie may have been involved, MKA lost his temper and threatened to ruin Sinclair if he didn't pay the ransom. We now see Hobbs in an underground canal, and Laura tells him they should give the diamonds back and make a deal. But he insists that if they do that, they will go to jail. Finch then enters the room and takes Laura's fingerprints as a formality. He then asks her to accompany him while he questions Hobbs. During the questioning, a man calls Finch away. Before Hobbs leaves, Laura tells him they have to negotiate or go to jail, to which he responds that his cause is worth 100 lifetimes in jail. Afterward, Finch looks at Laura's prints and compares them with some from MKA's home. Laura then opens Hobbs' locker in search of a clue to the diamonds. Later, Laura and Finch have a drink in a nearby bar. At the London Diamond Building, the press had arrived after Sinclair had tipped them off. Sir Gottfried, the chairman of Sinclair, attempted to keep the press away, but to no avail. Suddenly, MKA came down the stairs and suffered a heart attack, collapsing to the floor. Meanwhile, back at the bar, Finch asked Laura how she had managed to remove all the diamonds, but she insisted she was not that smart. Finch was then informed of MKA's heart attack and he left. In the ladies' toilets, Laura dropped a diamond from her earring in the sink's drain. After removing the pipe underneath, she realized how Hobbs must have removed the diamonds. She took a torch and entered the underground drain system. As she walked through the tunnels, Hobbs appeared with a torch and pointed a gun at her, telling her she was staying. Laura managed to knock the gun from his hand and ran through the tunnel, but tripped and fell. Suddenly, she noticed a huge diamond on the floor and put it in her pocket. Hobbs tells Laura that his wife's cancer could have been removed, but the insurance company, chaired by Sinclair, made her wait too long, and by then the cancer was too aggressive. Laura realizes that Hobbs is getting his revenge on Sinclair for taking the one thing he truly loved. Gottfried then agrees to pay the ransom of £100 million, which causes Sinclair to go to his office and shoot himself. Laura then explains how she figured it out when she dropped her diamond in the sink, leading to a flashback of Hobbs taking the diamonds in his work trolley to his workroom. Ollie then receives word that the ransom was deposited, but the note from Boyle showing the location of the diamonds is blank. We then see how Hobbs emptied the diamonds down the sink, and that the South African Star was actually in the bottom of the toilet Hobbs was asked to clean. Hobbs pointed the gun at Laura and pulled the trigger, only to be surprised when the gun was never loaded. He told her that it didn't matter now since the money would have been paid, and then he turned off his torch and walked away. Laura then walked down the tunnel and saw the diamonds piled high at the end of the drain. Men were carrying boxes of diamonds out of the tunnel, while Laura sat on the steps wrapped in a blanket. Finch informed her that he had lost his 5% finder's fees since she had found the diamonds. Laura was about to make an admission, but Finch stopped her, saying he would hate to see her spend the rest of her life behind bars. He said goodbye and left, and Laura remembered the large diamond in her pocket, but she decided to keep it. We see Ollie confidently telling the press that the diamonds were not stolen, and then allowing them to photograph all the diamonds inside the vault. Mitrid is seen signing a contract to secure his relationship with the company once again. Jumping back to the present day, we see Laura talking with Cassie again, telling her that she left the company a month later and received a letter from a Swiss bank informing her of a deposit made to an account in her name of £100 million. Laura hands Cassie a manuscript of her story to be published, hoping it will inspire other women. At the end, we see how Laura donated all the money to worthy charities around the world, and a photo of Laura with her husband and daughter. Cassie reads the final words of the manuscript. It's a remarkable world out there. Will you be a giver or a taker? As she walks outside to look for Laura, she is gone. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you liked this video, please remember to like and subscribe to watch more videos like this. Additionally, don't forget to turn on your notifications so that you can be updated when I release new videos. Doing so will help my channel a lot, so thank you for your support.